Welcome to Straight Up Reviews, where there's no bullshit beyond the sign. You're probably wondering why you don't see the sweater or the bat around. Well, I decided if I wanted to do some straight talking in my future reviews, I should do them as myself. No red sweater, no laser shooting bat, and no fairy kicking the living crap out of me. And no, this eye patch isn't used to cover a shiner. Actually, speaking of which, I finally did it. I completed the entire franchise by finishing the book that started it all. This is Another.
Now, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, and are just tuning in, Another started out as a novel in 2009 by author Yukito Ayatsuji. It later spawned onto a manga series, an anime, an OVA, and a live-action movie. The story revolves around Koichi Sakakibara, a teenager who transfers into the 9th grade 3rd class in Yomi North, a public school with a dark secret. He meets Mei Misaki, a mysterious eye-patch-wearing girl who others seem to ignore. As he tries to unravel the mystery behind her in the school, his fellow classmates die in a series of bizarre accidents and ailments.
As for me, since I watched the review, I made it my personal mission to look at every medium in the franchise save for the manga. And now that quest is finished. It took me a long time to find this book, and here it is. Unfortunately, not only could I not find a paperback, the e-book I got was split into 2 books. To speed things along, I used a text-to-speech audio program so I could read it while I was going on my everyday life. Now, because this is the book that started it all, and it was a long time coming, this review is going to be longer. And rather than simply liking or disliking it, I'm going to go through the comparisons between the book, movie, and anime. There will be spoilers.
Much of the key scenes, such as Koichi being admitted to the hospital, meeting Misaki, and the death scenes are more detailed, but that's to be expected in a book. Unlike the anime, which waited to reveal the gender of Misaki Yomiyama, the book explains it from the get-go that Yomiyama might be a boy or a girl. In the book, save for the intro and a few key pages, Koichi Sakakibara is the main narrator, whereas in the anime, narration was passed down between 2 classmates, each pair more different than the last. Kazumi, instead of Izumi, shakes Koichi's hand. She does not appear in the hospital with him along with Sakuragi. Reiko and her mother came to visit Koichi separately rather than together. Along with Pet Sematary, a second King book appeared. This book was Salem's Lot, which did not appear in the anime. This made sense plot-wise as each book foreshadowed the consequences of the dead returning to life, a major theme to another. The 7 Mysteries was implied to exist in every school in Japan, rather than simply Yomi North. If that was the case in real life, would someone with a better knowledge of Japanese history than I do tell me if that's the case? Koichi meeting Mei in the elevator happened during the day instead of night, like in the anime, which is the first clue that something wasn't quite right about Yomi North. Mei's doll's eye was blue instead of green, much like the live-action movie, whilst her real eye was jet black instead of reddish-brown. I think Yukito had a black and blue pun hidden with that, but I'm not quite sure. Much like the movie, the rules are in great detail rather than plot-significant ones of the anime. But like the anime, the 4th rule wasn't revealed until the end. Unlike the movie and anime, the novel seems to portray Koichi as having a double persona. A nice public persona that gets along with the classmates, as well as a somewhat cynic, suspicious inner persona. The class tour was more detailed rather than hinted at in the anime. It was also the first appearance of Building Zero, which didn't come into play until episode 9 of the anime. There was a hint regarding a real-life child murderer with the same last name as Koichi's, further associating his name with death than the anime implied. Kazumi in the novel instead of Sakuragi in the anime was the one that implied that the 26-year urban legend was the tip of the iceberg. During Book 1, Izumi Akazawa was only talked about but never seen until Chapter 7. Until then, Kazumi filled in for certain parts of the book that Izumi was involved during the anime and manga. In Book 2, she only had 4 prominent scenes. The first where she glared at Mei and Koichi, the second where she was part of the Koichi's blame nightmare, the third where the other girls, along with her, blamed Mei for the deaths and forced her to bow an apology in front of the entire class, as well as her death scene at the hands of the ink killer rather than the lightning bolt in the anime. There was also no hint of Izumi having any fondness of Koichi and treated him just as harsh as Mei. The love triangle was only built in the anime and the manga. Koichi seemed more aggressive in the novel than he did in the anime whenever someone tap danced around telling him what he wanted to know regarding the calamity of Mei, even verbally abusing Mochizuki during one point. Sane Mizuno, the nurse that was helping Koichi figure out the mystery, didn't die until her body was moved from the fallen elevator. Takabayashi's death wasn't due to him spouting exposition like in the anime, but still became crucial in Class 3's decision to make Koichi the second non-existent person. The class list demand took place around the time he was dying, only instead it was at his own home instead of a neutral location, and it happened while Mochizuki was at Koichi's house. Much of Mei's movements portrayed in the novel seem to hint further that she may be a ghost, such as her feet gliding rather than walking. Mizuno and Teshigawara aren't the only ones shipped using Misaki x Koichi. His father is also doing it, although unlike Mizuno, he doesn't know the other half of the ship by name or appearance. No one else but Mei, Mochizuki, Teshigawara, and Koichi listened to the Matsunaga tape. No one tried to kill Mei, neither the Inkiller, Class 3, nor Azumi or Takaku. Unlike the anime where Koichi never seen or encountered the Inkiller, he not only seen the killer, but was almost killed by her before Shibiki came to the rescue. This scene later replaced Koichi with Mochizuki and Teshigawara as the victims. Kazumi survives his fall but with no psychotic breaks, and even makes it in the end. Mei's doll's eye's abilities to see the color of death has an explanation beyond simply seeing it. Two, in fact. The first being that since dolls are hollow like death, it can see death. And the second being that her near-death experience that made her lose her real eye granted her this ability. Koichi contemplating taking advantage of his and Mei's non-existent life almost became more perverted in the novel than the anime implied. With the anime, they sort of tap-danced around it by just doing a simple but funny imagine spot involving a dance between Koichi and Mei. Whilst in the novel, he pretty much flat out said that these two could probably end up doing it in the middle of the classroom and the rest of the class wouldn't notice before he cut himself off. There was a recurrent line between Mei and Koichi. Whenever they plan on something, they ask themselves, how far in the future would that be? Implying that maybe their relationship, be it friendly or more, may not go anywhere, especially since the last time they said it was implied he was returning to Tokyo. There was no beach scene like in the anime, however Misaki still went to her parents' beach house. The painting Mei made in the art club has been implied to be vandalized by Akazawa for not wanting it along with Mei to exist. The novel showed more to Chibiki than just the creepy awesome librarian, such as having a wife and kids out of town. There were further interactions between Koichi and Detective Oba after Mizuno's death at the hands of an elevator. Characters like Aya Ayano don't appear in the novel as they were meant for the anime to increase the body count. The Inkiller died by her own hand rather than Chibiki's. And the last change I could find, among many horror references, Dracula, specifically the Christopher Lee's Hammer version, was mentioned by Koichi as his first horror he's ever watched. This comes into play at the end of the novel, when upon finding out that Reiko is the extra, he drives a pickaxe into her heart, a blow that wasn't clearly seen in the anime.
Overall, it met my expectations of being different than the anime. That got me started. But if anything, the anime copied the book mostly. Nearly every detail is covered save for the changes above, so it's hard not to like this. Much like how Son Goku is Japan's answer to Superman, Yukito Ayatsuji is Japan's answer to Stephen King, and I hope to see more of his work coming in the West in any way, shape, or form. So as usual, debate, argue, and let me know what I missed. Stay tuned for more.
Oh, I almost forgot. My final, another haiku.
Save the best for last. Finally read the novel. Waiting for sequel.